The MATEM, the warning alarms shattered. The peaceful silence aboard the exploration music, vessel defiant. Captain Alina raises bolted upright from her chair as red lights flooded the bridge. Her crew scrambled to their stations, fingers flying across control panels as data streamed across their screens. What they saw made their blood run cold. Surrounding them in perfect formation were 17 massive warships. A vessel dwarfed the Defiant by a factor of 10. Their dark holes bristled with weapons, and their energy signatures burned so bright that the sensors struggled to measure them accurately. This was not a patrol, this was an armada built for conquest. The communications officer, Marcus Chun, looked up with wide eyes. Captain, incoming transmission. It's on all frequencies. Alina straightened her uniform and nodded. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing a creature that embodied pure intimidation. The Zelan commander stood nearly 8 ft tall, with 4 muscular arms folded across a chest covered in ceremonial armor. Its face was angular and cruel, with eyes that glowed like burning coals. Bane rows of armed soldiers stood at attention. The alien's voice boomed through the bridge speakers, translated into perfect English by the ship's computer. Yamor, Master Kravik of the Xene Empire, J vessel has entered our expansion zone. J have violated our sovereign space. The crew exchanged nervous glances. They were in neutral territory, far from any claimed systems. This was a pretext for something worse. Kravik continued without pause. Your species is unknown to us. This means you are unimportant. However, the Xin Empire offers mercy to those who submit without resistance. You have 30 seconds to power down all systems and prepare for boarding. Refuse, and your ship will be reduced to atoms. Choose wisely, humans. The transmission cut out, leaving only a countdown timer displayed on every screen. 60 seconds. The bridge fell into stunned silence. Alina's mind raced through their options. The Defiant was a science vessel designed for deep space exploration and research. They had minimal defensive capabilities and no offensive weapons beyond basic pulse cannons meant for clearing asteroid debris. Against 17 warships, they had zero chance of survival in a fight. Here, Second Officer Lieutenant Sarono spoke urgently. Captain, we should consider their offer. We have 43 crew members aboard. Scientists, engineers, families. If we surrender, maybe we can negotiate. Marcus pulled up historical data with shaking hands. Captain, I found references to the Zelfine in the galactic database. D conquered 12 civilizations in the past century. A species that surrender become slave labor. D never heard from again. The countdown continued. 15 seconds. 14. Alina stood and walked to the main viewport. Through the transparent aluminum, she could see the alien warships forming a perfect cage around them. Their weapon ports glowed with building energy. They were already preparing to fire regardless of the Defiant's choice. This was not a negotiation. It was a formality before execution. She thought of Earth so far away. Her crew had volunteered for this mission to explore the unknown, to represent humanity's curiosity and hope. They had discovered 3 new star systems, cataloged hundreds of planets, and made first contact with 2 peaceful species. Their work mattered, their lives matter. But more than that, what they chose in This moment would define how the galaxy saw humanity forever. 10 seconds. And 8. If they surrendered, humanity would be marked as weak as prey. The Xene would come to Earth, eventually expecting the same submission. But if they fought, even in a hopeless battle, they would send a different message. Humans do not kneel, humans do not break, even facing impossible odds. Humans choose defiance. 7 seconds. 6. 5. Alina turned to her crew. Every face showed fear but also trust. They believed in her, they would follow her decision, whatever it was. She felt the weight of their lives in her hands, but also the weight of every human who would come after them, who would face these aliens or others like them. 4 seconds. 3. 2. Captain Reyes returned to her command chair and gripped the armrests. Her voice was steady, clear, and absolutely certain. Helm plot a collision course with their flagship. Full emergency thrust. All power to forward shields. Engineering, overload the reactor core. Set detonation for impact. +3 seconds. The crew froze for a heartbeat. Then training took over. Core the nuts. Locked. Captain, maximum thrust on your mark. Engineering acknowledged. Corey, overload sequence initiated. Sarah stared at her captain with a mixture of shock and understanding. Alina, this is suicide. We yelled. Alina met her as without flinching. We were always going to die, Sarah, but we get to choose how. 1 second. Cedo, the Zelfine expected a surrender signal. Instead, the Defiance engines erupted with blending light. The small human ship accelerated forward like a bullet fired from a gun aimed directly at the massive flagship. A loud screamed through the alien fleet as they scrambled to respond. Water, Master Kravik roared in fury and disbelief. What are they doing? Destroy them. Weapons fire, but the Defiant was already moving too fast, and the aliens had positioned themselves too close, arrogant in their assumption of easy victory. Anarchy beams lensed through space, most missing entirely as the human ship weaved through their formation with desperate agility. Alina's hands gripped her armrests as the flagship filled their view screen. Impact in 10 seconds. She activated the fleet-wide communication channel, broadcasting on every frequency. Though any who can hear this message, I am Captain Alina, Rays of Earth commanding the vessel Defiant. We encountered the Zelthian Empire today. They demanded our surrender. They expected our fear. Instead, we give them this answer. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not surrender, and humanity will never ever stop fighting for freedom. 5 seconds. 4. 3. The Zelene flagship tried to bring weapons to bear, but it was too massive, too slow. The Defiant struck like a meteor, shields blazing. Reactor core, seconds from detonation. The impact was tremendous. The impact that changed everything. The collision tore through space and time. Itself, the Defiant's experimental shielding designed to protect against cosmic radiation during deep space travel, compressed under the impact into a focus point of incredible energy. The flagship's hull, built to withstand conventional weapons, had never been tested against a ship used as a projectile powered by a overloading reactor core. Metal screamed, energy exploded outward in a sphere of white hot plasma. The flagship's forward section crumpled like paper decks, compressing into each other as the human vessel buried itself deep into the alien structure. Emergency bulkheads slammed. shut throughout the Xene command ship. But the damage was catastrophic. The bridge where Warm Master Kravik had stood moments before simply ceased to exist. 3 seconds after impact, though, Defiance reactor core detonated. The explosion ripped through both vessels, tearing the flagship nearly in half. Debris scattered in all directions, pelting the other Zeline warships with superheated fragments. 2 nearby cruisers sustained critical damage from the shrapnel storm. The remaining alien vessels immediately broke formation, retreating to a safer distance. On the bridge of the second largest Zalth warship, Subcommander stared in absolute shock at the destruction. The flagship, the pride of their fleet, was dying. Fires burned across its hull. Atmosphere vented from thousands of breaches, and somewhere in that carnage was War Master Kravik, almost certainly dead. This was impossible. Species surrendered when faced with Zelfine might. They begged for mercy. They did not transform themselves into weapons. Status report. Velix demanded, his voice shaking. The tactical officer worked frantically. Flagship total loss, crew survival estimated at 30%. 2 escort cruisers heavily damaged. The human vessel complete destruction confirmed. No life signs. Velrix felt something unfamiliar crawling through his thoughts. It took him a moment to recognize it as fear. These humans, this tiny species they had never heard of, had just destroyed their most powerful ship. Not through superior technology or tactics, but through sheer incomprehensible will. Pull back the fleet, he ordered. Establish defensive perimeter. We need to report this to the High Command. But even as he gave the orders, knew the truth. This incident would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species under Xene control, every civilization living fear of conquest would hear this story. They would learn that surrender was not the only option. They would learn that defiance was possible. However, something unexpected happened in the wreckage. Deep inside the twisted remains of both vessels, within a small section of the Defiance crew quarters, the experimental shielding had created a pocket of survivability. The shields, designed to bend around cosmic radiation, had wrapped around this section during the impact, creating a protective bubble. Inside, 7 crew members slowly regained consciousness. Captain Alina Reyes opened her eyes to darkness and pain. Her head throbbed and her left arm hung at an odd angle. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting red shadows across the destroyed compartment. She heard groaning nearby and recognized Sarah's voice. Sound off. Alina croaked, her throat raw. One by one, voices responded. Sarah Kono alive. Marcus Chin here, Captain. 4 more crew members called out, including 2 engineers and the ship's doctor. 7 survivors from a crew of 43. The reality crashed over Alina like a wave. 36 people dead, families destroyed, lives ended. She had made the choice and they had followed her. The weight of it threatened to crush her. Sarah pulled herself across the debris to reach the Captain. Alina, we need to move. This section is stable, but the hull integrity won't last. The emergency beacon is still functioning. Hours passed in the darkness. The survivors did what they could to stabilize injuries and conserve their limited oxygen supply. They did not know if anyone would come or if the Z-Thane would finish them off, but they had sent their message. Humanity had shown its nature to the galaxy. Several days Later, a Galactic Coalition rescue ship arrived at the coordinates. The Zalfine fleet had fled entirely, unwilling to risk another encounter with humans. The Coalition had intercepted Captain Reyes' final broadcast, and it had spread across hundreds of worlds within hours. The rescuers found the 7 survivors and brought them aboard with a level of respect usually reserved for legendary warriors. The Coalition captain, a being from a species that had suffered under Xene aggression for generations, personally greeted Alina. Captain Reyes, your message has reached across the galaxy. 17 worlds are now in open rebellion against the Xene Empire. They cite your actions as proof that resistance is not futile. You showed them that courage exists. Alina felt tears streaming down her face. 36 people died. The captain nodded solemnly, and their sacrifice lit a fire that will burn through tyranny for generations. The Zalfine learned today that some species cannot be conquered. They learned that humanity will never surrender. Over the following months, the impact of that single collision rippled outward. The Xene Empire, shaken by the loss of their flagship and the rebellions it sparked, withdrew from several territories. The Galactic Coalition offered Earth a formal alliance and protection. Captain Alina Reyes and her 6 surviving crew members returned to Earth as heroes at the memorial service for the lost crew of the Defiant. Alina stood before thousands and spoke quietly. They asked us for surrender. We gave them our answer, not with words but with action. We showed them that humanity values freedom more than life itself. That is our strength. That is our legacy. The galaxy had asked what kind of species humanity was. The Defiant had answered, not with surrender but with impact, not with fear but with courage, and the universe would never forget. In the end, 30 seconds had been enough time to choose defiance, enough time to change everything, enough time to prove that when pushed to the edge, humanity does not step back.